We've all heard before that we need to create a better work-life balance. But is that even possible as a teacher? Well, in this video, I am discussing just that and some steps that you can take to create a better balance. Hey y'all, I'm Rachel Vincent, a 4th grade teacher in South Carolina, and I share tips on running effective and efficient classrooms so that you can get all the things done and still have time to teach. So one of the things that we need to discuss first is the fact that a work-life balance is actually a myth. There is no such thing. You're never going to find a perfect balance, and even if you do for a moment, it's just not sustainable. So calling it balance is actually more harmful than it is helpful because we feel like we need to achieve this balance and it's just not possible. What we do have is an ebb and a flow. It's more like the tides. So we know that there are going to be seasons of life where we have to have a high tide at school. We have to spend more time working on school things than we do our home life, and home life will suffer, or your life outside of teaching. But then the same thing happens to life outside of school. There are events and things happening in life to where you're not going to get all of your things done at school that were on your to-do list because your outside of teaching life is just taking up more of your time. So instead of thinking it like a scale of trying to balance home and teaching or work and life, think of it more of a pie where each slice of your life is a pie. And so your teaching slice takes up a lot of our time during the school year, and then you have other areas of your life, maybe working out, family time, maybe you have a second job or side hustle, and those take up different pie slices too. And so one of the things you have to decide is within each season of life, where are your priorities? Knowing that the beginning of the school year will take up a bigger chunk of pie than, let's say, another time of the year. End of the quarter also takes up a bigger slice of teaching pie because there is just more required of us, making sure things are graded and report card comments and parent conferences. And one of the things that makes figuring out this pie slice, if you will, is that anytime there's a transition, life gets messy. When you're transitioning from holiday to holiday, when you're transitioning from a time off of work to back into work, things get out of whack, your routines get off schedule. And the hard part about teaching is we are in constant transition. There's always the beginning of the year hustle and bustle, and then we go into setting those routines and trying to create a learning environment, and then it goes into that first quarter and parent conferences, and then you're into the holidays, and then you get that break, but then you come back and you're hitting it hard because testing season is coming up. It's just a constant change. So we constantly have to reevaluate what our pie slices are looking like. It's not one of those things that we can say, okay, this is the amount of time I'm going to allow, and then I don't have to worry about it again. We constantly, as teachers, are going to have to shift and move things around to find the balance that works for our life, because what works for one person is not going to work for another. So one of the things that really worked for me when I was trying to make my teaching slice a little smaller to allow myself more time after school to be able to pursue other passions was to set strict work hours. I'm now in a place where I don't have to do this because I have created the habit of leaving shortly after my contract hours, but originally I knew I was going to have to work up to that time. So I first started with setting my alarm to leave school at 3:45, which is about an hour after contract hours. And so that gave me the space to start to figure out what I needed to accomplish, what kind of goals I wanted to set for myself. And eventually I was able to move that time up to where now I leave right around 3 o'clock unless there's a meeting after school. If you're going that route, you have to be strict with yourself. When that alarm goes off, you have to say, okay, I'm going to stop what I'm doing and I'm going to leave. It also helped that I told my coworkers this as well. And so when they would hear my alarm go off, they would say, okay, Rachel, it's time to go. And then I started to notice they started leaving earlier too. And it became a ripple effect in my grade level to where we all sort of held each other accountable to not staying super late and just getting some things done and going home so that we could enjoy life outside of teaching. So sometimes the hard thing about setting those boundaries on your time is thinking, but I have so much to do. There's no way I can get everything done. But a lot of times what happens is because we keep it all in our brain, we think it's more than it actually is because we're thinking about it over and over and over again. So getting all of those thoughts down on paper, all the things that you have to do, it's easier to prioritize and see, okay, what is absolutely essential that I have to do and what is something that can wait till another day, another week, or maybe I don't even really need to do that at all. And so after you've brained up and got those all ideas out, then you can begin to prioritize and pick your top 3 to 5 tasks that you want to get done. And so when I started doing this, and at the beginning of the week, or really anytime I started to feel overwhelmed, I would just write down everything that I needed to do. And then I would pick what tasks I was going to do each day. That way, when the bell rang and students left, I said, okay, I need to get these 3 things done and then I can go home. And that actually allowed me to leave school earlier than my normal 3:45 alarm because I realized I can get things done faster than I thought. And so instead of filling up that time with other tasks, I just cut it off and said, okay, I did my 3 tasks, I'm going home. The other 3 tasks will be there tomorrow. The next thing that really helped me figure out how much I could get done during the school day was to plan my planning times. So often I would drop my students off at PE or music and get back to the classroom, and then I would start doing stuff that was maybe sitting there on my desk, or I'd go and chat with my coworkers and just kind of get distracted, or not even really distracted, but just let whatever it was in front of me guide what I was doing during my planning. When I started planning my planning time, I knew each day what I wanted to specifically work on. So I knew that every Monday I needed to make sure that I had written my weekly email and get that typed up, get that sent out. I knew I needed to file paperwork, graded paperwork, so that it could go home later in the week. I knew that on Tuesdays during my planning, I was going to be working on lesson plans for the following week. I knew that Wednesdays I was going to be pulling all the resources and papers to be copied and things like that. So I had something scheduled for each day of my planning time. And I actually started with scheduling what I was doing each morning, each time during my planning, and each day after school. So I had all those blocks of time planned out for me so that I knew exactly what was important and what I wanted to get done during those times. Now, of course, things arise and things happen to where maybe you don't get a planning period that day, maybe a parent email comes in that you need to call up. Being flexible as a teacher just comes with a job, and it's something that we know what to do and how to do. So I wasn't like so strict on those time blocks, but it still gave me the freedom to know this is what I'm doing during this time. Another thing that has really helped me to create a better work-life balance, create a smaller teaching slice in my pie of life, is to say no to things. No is a complete sentence, and you do not have to give a reason why you're saying no. And one of the things that really helped me too was because personally telling people no is not easy, especially to their face. It's much easier to say no through email or a text, but oftentimes I would say, I would love to do that, but I can't do it right now. It made it easier to say no because I was saying, yes, I want to help, but I can't right now because my priorities are in a different place. Of course, I didn't say that priorities part, but it gave me an easier way to say no that felt more polite to me. So often the unbalance we feel and the overwhelm we feel is not actually what's going on in our life, it's how we feel about it. And so taking some of these steps can help us begin to feel less overwhelmed with all the things we have to do as a teacher. If you're still feeling overwhelmed at how it's even possible to create a better balance as a teacher, then I would encourage you to watch the video that's on your screen now that will help you to overcome the overwhelm.